Hello and welcome back to OnCourse, our regular look at the sailing world. And what an episode we've got for you this time. For starters, down in Auckland, the America's Cup is ramping up as we get close to the first event in the middle of December. Then there's the Vendée Globe, 28,000 miles around the world and a record fleet of 33 boats. But first, of the many speculative designs and press releases that come floating through the Planet Sail inbox, keep them coming please, was one that stood out for its ambitious vision of the future. Take a look at this. And if that isn't impressive enough and you miss some of the technical details, take a look at how long this boat is. 101 metres. Yep, 101 metres. In old money, that's 332 feet and it's 128 feet wide. That's not a yacht, that's a postcode. So when I took a closer look at it, I then started looking at some of the details and claims that the video made. It's surprising just how many of these features already exist.
Wingsail hoisted and activated. Furling wingsail completed. Sea state and wave monitoring activated. Autonomous hydrofoil control activated.
Take, for example, the automated ride height controls. They were used in the last America's Cup on the AC50s.
Wingsail angle of attack, status, optimal. Obstacle detection and avoidance systems, operational.
Then there's the collision detection systems. Well, we're seeing those with Oscar, which are being used by just around half of the boats in the Vendée Globe. And then how about augmented reality systems that overlays the computer's assessment onto the real world? I'd give that a tick too.
Obstruction detected. Altering course. Oils and rudders, mooring mode. Comfort foiling mode. Performance foiling mode.
It's impressive stuff. And if it wasn't for the fact that I looked up the designers, you'd have to say this was the work of pure fantasy. But when you do drill down and find out who's behind this, it's VPLP. Yep, that'll be the company that has brought us some of the most extreme IMOCA 60s, some of the most extreme multi-hulls, and of course many of the L-Team tries. So perhaps it's not fantasy after all. You might not think that there's a direct link between the kit that you wear and the speed that you can lap the planet. But those that have been there before need no convincing. Having the right clothing is absolutely crucial. Armel Leclerc won the last Vendée Globe wearing Musto. Gore-Tex waterproofing and breathability are clearly essential performance features, but as with everything Vendée Globe, it's all about balancing efficiency against the minimum gear necessary to cover a wide range of conditions. HPX forms the fundamental kit for maximum warmth and protection. Then skippers transition to lighter MPX trousers and the ultralight and flexible LPX top for the trade winds. And from there, it's into an SPF 50 t-shirt and shorts from the Evolution range for the tropics. And then back into full Gore-Tex HPX when it gets gnarly. The Rolex Fastnet race is special. It's the world's biggest offshore race and it has a huge reputation. The 2021 edition of the 700 nautical mile race starts on the 8th of August. But the fierce competition starts before the fleet even gets afloat, because this is a race that sells out fast. In 2019, the 340 entry limit was reached in just 5 minutes. So to compete, you need to be on the ball. And there are 3 things to know. Read the guide for entrance. Make sure your boat is listed on Sailgate, the RORC's race entry management system. And entries open on Tuesday, January the 12th at 10 o'clock. Good luck for a very special race. It was always going to be an emotional departure. Whether you're a rock star or a rookie, the Vendée Globe is a big deal. But now, they're off. "33 skippers with around 24,000 miles ahead of them. And even though history suggests that around half of the fleet will be forced to retire before the finish, I'm pretty sure that once they got out on the water, all of them were relieved to be out there doing what they've been rehearsing for so long leading up to this event. But first, a correction from me. As several of you quite rightly pointed out, there aren't 7 new boats, there's 8 in this Vendée Globe. And the team I missed out was Nicolas Troussel's brand new Huanque designed Corum. Nicolas is a very shrewd offshore sailor. He's won the Solitaire du Figaro twice, and he's sailing a weapon of a boat. At least that's what it looks like. The trouble is, we don't really know much about it. This is his first Vendée Globe, and he didn't compete in the Vendée Arctique up to Iceland and back. So we really don't know how he's going to be getting on. Nevertheless, he's still one to look out for, so apologies for not including him in the first list. So when it came to the start, and after a delay of about an hour and a half to allow the fog to clear, the fleet finally got underway. There was 10 knots of breeze and flat water, so pretty perfect conditions. Unless, of course, you're looking to set a record to the equator. And given the fact that the early few days of this race were upwind, setting a new record on the first part of the race looked pretty unlikely. Instead, what a lot of the teams were looking at was the prospect of having to punch through a rather nasty looking front a couple of days into the race. Before the start, Alex Thompson had spoken of the potential for boat-breaking conditions. And when it came to it, many of the fleets saw up to 45 knots of wind and some big seas. And there were quite a few breakages.
And then as I approached the front, I knew it was going to get windy and I prepared for that, but I thought I was thinking 40 knots, but no. I had 53 knots. When normally you pass the front, I'd expect the wind to go down a bit and you'd be able to normally tack. That's what I planned to do, but unfortunately the wind never went down, so I had to tack in 40 knots, which took 2 attempts.
But the biggest news on the other side of this nasty front was that of race favourite Jeremy Bayou, who announced that he would have to return to the start at Les Sables d'Olonne after suffering rudder damage. The news came as a big shock. After all, Chiral and Jeremy Bayou have got more miles under their keel than any of the new generation boats. And it also served as an apt reminder as to just how quickly things can go wrong. Meanwhile, the early rankings also confirmed that in upwind, non-foiling conditions, the older boats can be competitive, as Maxime Sorel aboard VB Mayenne led the charge south.
Toujours à bord de l'IMOCA VB Mayenne. Ça y est, le blanc en l'air, le Genac. Woo!
But while this was a very impressive achievement, it's still early days yet. Stay tuned, we'll be bringing you more. The 100,000 viewers that have already watched our preview, thank you very much, will have already seen the teams that we tipped. The links above. But those of you that have followed the event so far will know how brutal this race is and how quickly fortunes can change. Just over a week after the start and shortly after we produced this feature, Nicolas Trousseau lost his mast on Coram. He was reported as being safe, but his race looked like being over. Just a few hours after spraying their bow with champagne and revealing boat number 2 to the general public, American Magic were flying around the Hauraki Gulf in their brand new AC-75. This is a boat that took about 100,000 hours to complete, and it's really difficult to overemphasize just how complicated a machine this really is. So to see it in full flight charging around the Hauraki Gulf just a couple of hours after launching was pretty incredible. After all, there is no form guide for this kind of book. You can't look it up on YouTube to find out how it goes together. But it very nearly went badly wrong. They got away with it, but it could have been a whole lot worse. But at the very least, it was a reminder of just how close to the edge these boats are and the risks that they take. But it wasn't just the Americans that impressed me. All 3 of the challengers have got out and flown their boats around the Hauraki Gulf just shortly after having launched them. It's impressive stuff. So at the moment it's still a bit difficult to see who's got the strengths in what particular areas. That won't come until a little bit later on. But what it does show us is how different this America's Cup cycle could turn out to be. These teams are a lot further down the line than you might expect, particularly when you consider that this is an America's Cup cycle with a brand new, untried, untested, unprecedented new design. And that's got a number of the experts wondering whether in fact we are in store for closer racing than we might have originally thought, given that these are such wildly different designs. So in the meantime, watching the video footage of these teams charging around the Hauraki Gulf with their new machines reminded me once again why I find this concept so fascinating and why it's taking teams into completely new territory. And one of the biggest clues to this is the way in which the boats heel, because that gives you an indication of just how hard they are to handle. So, to get your head around it, first of all, think of a conventional boat. If you looked at it from the stern as it was sailing upwind and heeled to leeward, if you looked at the axis by which the boat heels, it's basically in a line between the back of the boat and the bow. It just rotates around its sort of centre line. A multi-hull does the same thing. You have two hulls and the multi-hull rotates around the hull that's in the water, but it rotates around the hull. Okay, so now look at an AC-75 from the same position, from the stern. When it's foiling, it's only supported on 2 points. The rudder on the centre line at the back, but a foil which is way out to leeward, which means that when the boat heels, it doesn't do so around an axis that goes fore and aft, it heels around the 2 points, the rudder and the foil over here, which means that as it heels to leeward, the bow rears up in the air. If the boat heels into windward, the bow plunges down towards the water's surface, which gives you quite a good indication as to why sometimes these boats have some rather unusual motions and why it's so hard to control them through a tack or through a jibe. So if crews thought that the AC-50 foiling cats of the last America's Cup were a bit of a handful, they were in for a bit of a surprise with the AC-75s. And that returns me to my original point. I'm amazed at how fast these teams have actually learnt to do something really quite extraordinary. And then came some big news about the boat we've all been waiting for, Emirates Team New Zealand's second boat. And when it slipped out of the shed, few were expecting what they saw.
An absolutely monumentous occasion for the team. It's 75,000 man hours have gone into the build and design of this boat, so to get out there and get on the water tomorrow with this is going to be absolutely sensational. I think absolute massive credit to the team. The whole marine industry in New Zealand has actually got behind us here, and it's a wonderful achievement, so I think New Zealand should be very proud.
I named this boat Rehutai. May God bless her and all who sail on her.
Yeah, really exciting night to have just launched Rehutai, our race boat that we're going to put on the start line March 6th next year. So much work's gone into this boat, many hours. Absolutely thrilled with tonight, but looking forward to getting it on the water now.
Holding your breath still, you jump the fire. We'll just sit and wait till you see me fly. You know they'll never catch me for it. See me fly, the way I put my finger on it. See me fly, you got it, then try to tell me you got the wrong guy. See me fly, you know they'll never catch me for it. See me fly, the way I put my finger on it. See me fly, you got it, then try to tell me you got the wrong guy.
Once again, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your support, which has been tremendous over the last couple of months. Absolutely taken our breath away. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell. Please do keep sending us your comments. Stay safe, stay well. Till next time.